right, my people. How are you all doing? Hope everyone is doing absolutely wonderful. Welcome to what's going on, Miss Irma. Good to see you. Welcome to Let's Talk. It's a monthly conversation that I attempt to have, and monthly conversation that I attempt to have just to kind of keep our ears perked up. And my assumption is that if I think it's important enough to where there's at least one person that listens and that shares it with another person, I think we're doing well. I think it's always important to have conversations and not just to watch our situations just go deeper and deeper in the hole. Miss Loretta, what's going on, madam? If all y'all that's watching, if you could do me a favor and go ahead and share the post, I would appreciate it a whole lot. Everybody that's watching, if you can go ahead and share the post, I would be extremely appreciative. Kenny McLean, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. You all go ahead and share the post so that we can get some more people on here. If there's something that you want to type in the chat, just type it in. And on this format right here, your comments are right in front of my face. And so I see them. Thank you, Kenny McLean. I see them when you do it. But today I want to have a conversation that I think is extremely important. And these conversations aren't to in any kind of way prove that I know anything. It's to provoke conversations that we can begin having with one another, and not just to talk, but conversations to give us a heads up and on some things that's happening that might be to our detriment, or heads up on some things that we might need to do to empower our communities. And so if you're watching, go ahead and share the post. It's only a 30-minute conversation, just a quick conversation. We're on episode six of Let's Talk. And so I'm committed to doing at least 12, and we're on episode 6 now. So welcome to Let's Talk. And today, the topic, you see the topic that's on the flyer. The topic is entitled "The Village Has Been Infiltrated, Gentrified, and Compromised." The village has been infiltrated, gentrified, and compromised. And so as we talk about this, the first thing that I want to do is I want to kind of share my idea of the village. What is the village? And so when I think, and please understand, I know that everybody is not going to agree with the kind of things that I talk about. We have some people that are extremely dependent on others, and feel that their success can only come from others supporting them and helping them out. And I think that's a dangerous place to be in, because when the others really don't have your best interest at heart, you put yourself in a very vulnerable position. But people think like they think, and I don't try to convince everyone of the way I think. But if I can convince a few people to really be self-contained and to where we can depend on ourselves, we actually make the country a better place when we're not dependent on other people. And so when I think of the idea of a village, the village is communal. It's a self-contained district or community that's within a town or a city. And we use the term village a lot, and I think many people, when we say village, they know exactly what we are talking about. And I think it's obvious. And if someone thinks otherwise, you can feel free to share it. But I think it's obvious that our village is not what it used to be. We hear a lot of older people, and this is not a conversation that we got to go back to doing everything the old way, because there are advances that we should evolve with, we should grow with. But there's some things that should not be lost along the way as we grow. And when I think about our communities, the village feel, it seems to have dissipated. The village feel to where you there you go. Reverend Mayberry says the village isn't the village we knew. The 21st century village includes a melting of safe and unsafe. I like that, of safe and unsafe inhabitants. That's a good word, Reverend Mayberry. And so, and that was important to our success. The reason that we had a broader array of success is because we looked out for one another. We took care of one another. When we saw our children doing things that were not in their best benefit, we would not only correct those children, but we would make sure that we passed the information down to the parent, and we trusted one another to correct our children. And but now we've moved to a place to where that village feel is no more. And so, although we may live in the same locations, we may live in proximity to one another, it doesn't have the village feel anymore. And I think Reverend Mayberry said it best, that it's a melting of safe and unsafe inhabitants. And when he says melting, I think about the idea of people always talking about the melting pot. You don't want to ever be a part of a melting pot, because what melting does, it takes when you were formed like this, melting, it breaks you down and it causes you to become something else. You don't get to, it's better if you want to go in and mix with other people. It's better to be a salad, not a melting pot. It's better to be a salad. Don't want heat. I don't want pressure to help me relate to you. It's better. I need to come in this thing and I need to be who I am. Remember my history, remember my culture, remember who I am, and to be able to function in that way. And what Reverend Mayberry is talking about, because it's a melting of safe and unsafe inhabitants. And so some people that I'm becoming one with, they're fine to be, but there's some people that just don't have my best interest at heart. And so I appreciate that feedback, Reverend Mayberry. Anybody, I told you, I see your comments right in front of me on this format right here, and so I can respond quickly. And so when we say the village has been infiltrated, gentrified, and compromised, this thing that it was communal. We looked out for one another. We had each other's back. We trusted one another. That thing, that village, it's been infiltrated. That's the first point I want to bring out, that it's been infiltrated. To infiltrate something is to gain access gradually. You don't do it all at once. It's not a quick invasion, but you gain access. Our village has been infiltrated gradually. And when we say infiltrated, many times things are infiltrated to acquire secret information that people normally don't know. And there's some things about our culture that works for us. There are some things about our culture that has gotten us to the places where we are. Even when people didn't want us to thrive, we were still able to thrive. We were still able to thrive, even though people couldn't understand why we were able to thrive. How is it that I put this type of pressure on these people? And this woman, she cleaned houses for a living, but she's able to send her children to college. How is it? How is it that we put this type of pressure on people, but they're still able to smile and be happy and come together? I mean, just come together. They began to have laws that about us not being able to gather, and they still have those kind of laws about they call them loitering now. But people are afraid of us gathering and becoming one and having great relationships with one another. Irma says it's extremely important to keep your individuality. And in our village, we knew who we were. There was no, and there's some people we're just not going to change. I mean, you can say it to you can say it till you turn whatever blue in the face or whatever in the face. To me, I can say it till I turn white in the face, but it ain't gonna happen, because there's some among us that feel that there's a connection that has to be maintained between us and others, and we're not willing at all, literally not willing at all, to go to a place to where we're not depending on these others and we're not walking hand in hand with these others. And so our village has been infiltrated. We've allowed people to come in. They came in gradually into our village. Some of them tried to talk like us. Some of you all, I don't know too much now. I don't watch a whole lot of preachers. But I remember back in the early 2000s, the late 1990s when I first got saved. I used to watch, and I used to see some of these evangelical preachers. They try to talk like that they're one of us. They try to use our vernacular, and our people flock to them. They love it. They talk just like us, and we feel good about that. One I think about is there was a woman. Her name was Paula White, I think it was. She was in Orlando, and she what she did. I mean, they know how to talk just like us, we know it's not just like us, but we feel like, oh wow, they're kind of like us, and then we embrace them, we follow them, we trust them, and her church there was a preacher in 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 Orlando. I can't remember. It's a kind of younger guy, but he died. He had a strong church, might have been called Destiny something. I can't remember. But this preacher died, and then she took over his church because the black community, trusted him, and so she had a church that was majority. And then when Trump came out, we found out she took the covers off. She took the hood off, and we found out who she really was, and people were so surprised. But the issue is that we allow people, because they can go and change the dialect, they can go and change the way they talk, they can go and do these things, and we fall for it because we have this craving to want to be attached to people that initially hasn't. I remember back in the day, Kira Clark says, infiltrated by pulpit pimps and Mr. Preacher, and she's absolutely right. Infiltrated, we've been infiltrated by pulpit pimps and Mr. Preacher Hustler, man. But I think basically what she's saying is people pimping the church for own personal reasons, as opposed to the church being a resource for the community and the church. But we begin doing that when we start trying to be like someone. Our original church was that's where the insurance companies were born out of our churches. The colleges were born out of our church. It was to empower our people. But once we began trying to become like someone else, and then in the same way that those people didn't have our best interest, many of the people in our churches began to have selfish reasons for doing what we do. Irma says the damage was done when we decided that we needed to talk like them. Right? We had to talk proper. We couldn't talk like. That's why y'all don't see me try to. I know our children need to have good English, and so we know how to switch up, and we know how to do. But we shouldn't feel bad, and we shouldn't feel like we have good sense. But when we're around one another, we talk to one another, we have conversation, and that doesn't take away from our intelligence. We still know how to write a sentence. We still know how not to split verbs. We still know how to talk, but there's a certain way that we communicate with one another. But when we're sometimes when we want to be embraced by others, we forget who we are. And so the village was infiltrated. It was infiltrated by people who wanted to come and gain knowledge of some things that they couldn't understand, how we were still able to thrive, have businesses. And that I was reading this thing about and I didn't even know it. Sorry to say, I know similar stories, but I didn't know they talked about the death of Black Utopia, and it was talking about Seneca Village in New York, and there's so many places around our country, but how people come in and infiltrate, but they infiltrate for a purpose. They don't come in to be one together. They come in to do what they've always done, and that's to take over. And so our villages, that village feel where we looked out for one another, we took care of one another. That village feel, it's been infiltrated. But not only has it been infiltrated, I mean, someone gradually gained access in order to acquire secret information, and then it became gentrified. And we see gentrification all over the place. Where I pastored before I came to Gainesville in Lincolnville, known as Little Africa, that was gentrified. We see over in the Fifth Avenue area, that's been gentrified. To be gentrified, it means an area, and in many instances, it might have been a poorer area to some. But I mean, many of us thrived in those areas. We had our own business. I think about Fifth Avenue. I think about Arts, the Flowers, and Mama Lo's, Mom's Kitchen, all that stuff over there. I mean, we were thriving. They might have looked at it as poor. I'm just going by the dictionary definition, but it says a formerly poor or urban area changed in character by wealthier people moving in, attracting new business, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. But what happens is there are places that were neglected. So let's say you pay your taxes. You pay your taxes just like any other area. And the city government or the municipality chose not to invest in your area as they did in other areas, and then it appears that 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 your area was poorer, but it was poorer in many instances because certain people chose to not invest the dollars that you gave, the dollars that you contributed to 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 um, to that municipality into that area in infrastructure and sewer and things like that. And so when businesses and things like that come, if money has not been invested into the infrastructure, they're going to go to where it's been invested, to where the things that are necessary in the ground, the infrastructure that's necessary in the ground, so that they don't have to spend so much money. They're going to go to those areas. And so it's not so much that the people were poor. There are a lot of things that led to it. Gentrification, and I like that, Kira. That is really colonization, and that's what happened. I'm reading on Project 1619 right now, and I was really impressed. We call it Haiti, but the people from Haiti call it Haiti, and I was really impressed by our brothers and sisters in Haiti. They were the first country they were colonized by the French. We had a lot of Europeans. That's what they do, colonize. And so we got colonized by British and English over here and others, but they were colonized by. I mean, they were taken over by the French, and they rose up, and fought back. And because Europeans did not want, because word started getting over here of what happened in Haiti. And so what other European countries began to do that had slaves, to make sure that their slaves didn't take notes from what happened in Haiti, was that they began to have extremely harsh treatment and brutality to warn them that this would happen, if you rose up. But that's what happens. People come in and they try to make you become what they are. And gentrification is just, and what happens is when these people come in, and now all those resources that could have been invested before, now those resources are invested into that area, businesses attracted to that area, and then those that lived in an area are displaced, and spread out. And when we're displaced and spread out, we're made even weaker. And our village, it has been infiltrated. Our village, it has been gentrified. I think about over in St. Augustine, and I see the same thing over Fifth Avenue, and every city has it. And what happens when they come in? They come in. We just want a nice, diverse community, and then as soon as they get in there, they start telling you how to do, what to do. I remember they were complaining when I was over in St. Augustine and in the Lincolnville area. Now, when they moved over there, the older brothers, there was a house that was vacant down the street, and the older guys during the day, they sit out there and just talk and play cards and hang out. But now that these new people moved in, now they started calling code enforcement. They started calling the police. These guys were doing this when they came, and so they don't come in to be in a more diverse community. They come in to change the community, and so once it's infiltrated, then it's gentrified. And many of us, we get hoodwinked and bamboozled because we think things are going to be so great. Now that others are coming, and now we know the municipality is going to invest resources that they should have invested in the first place. They're going to invest those resources Instead, what should be in our mind is, why didn't you do it in the first place? Not that we're so glad that you're coming in, so now that you can invest the resources, why didn't you invest our money in the first place? We had businesses, we had things that we did, and we had a good way of life, but you chose to try to starve us out in the same way that that the world starved Haiti out. The whole entire European world starved Haiti out, and so we make the wrong arguments, thinking that, oh, it's almost like, if I sell ice, and I'm a black store owner, and a white store owner sells ice, like his ice is colder than mine. And sometimes our minds are messed up to the point, and I don't blame us. It's through trauma that we think that that white ice is colder. No, no, it's not. It's not colder. And anytime you hear the word, and Kira's saying, when we say diverse, it means to divert from real black issues. That's it. Not dealing with, Kira. I got to figure out who you are, Kira. I like your comments. You need to join us on our Real Talk conversations on Wednesdays, also with the church. But we you got to be careful. That word diverse sounds so good, but it can be a sneaky way of infiltrating the village, so that we can change the village and make the village more like us. This melting piece. You become like me. Sometimes it's good to have your own. Sometimes it's good to be dependent on yourself. It's good to be self-contained. That's what a village is. A village is self-contained. If I go out, I don't go out because I have to go out. We work and we make sure that everything that we need is in our village, and then when we spend our money, it remains in our village. When we right now, because we've been infiltrated, and because our villages have been gentrified, our money our money goes out. It doesn't even stay in our community. It runs right out of our community. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but it talked about the different races and how long the money stays in their community. Our money runs slap out of our community because we've allowed people, one, to not invest monies that we pay in taxes back into the infrastructure, back into the fabric of our community. And then we have not, and because of that, we've run off places, run it. We've tried to do other things to build, and everyone has a responsibility to build wealth for your family and generations to come. But it should be able to happen without us abandoning the village. And but the world that we live in has caused some of us to totally abandon the village, and then we get out there and find out that those people never cared about us in the first place. It happens during politics. I mean, politics are pathetic. I mean, politics are absolutely pathetic because no one really cares. And so you gotta look at your issues. People will get you caught up in their issues. They'll get you caught up in their issues. You'll fight for their fights. You'll do all this. And when they get it, they gone. They dipping. They out because they got what they wanted and never cared about you in the first place. But you were the one out there rallying all the troops together to help them on their issues. We have to be completely focused on our issues. And the last one I want to talk about, our villages have been infiltrated, our villages have been gentrified, but our villages have also been compromised. To compromise means to accept standards that are lower than what we initially desired, to accept standards. And so now you hear people talking about, our communities. Our community might be unsafe or this or that. And in many instances, it's true. But it's true because we allow people to infiltrate it. We allow people to gentrify it. And even though our neighborhoods might not be completely gentrified, they've been infiltrated and they've been compromised. They gentrify when they go and find the value. Fifth Avenue is right next to the University of Florida. Lincolnville is right next. It sits right in between two rivers. When they find value in where you are, they'll infiltrate. They'll gentrify and they'll get rid of, and then, but what it does is it causes us to be compromised, to accept standards that are lower than what we desire. And there's some things that are going on in our communities. They're below our standards. And we've never stooped that low. We've never accepted certain type of treatment, but because we want to have this melting, we want to have melding together. We've compromised. We've lowered our standards, and it's not worked good for us. It's not worked well for us. We're in many cases we're so into trying to maintain certain relationships that we compromise who we are. We are an amazing people. I mean, how can you? You're talking about people. I was listening on Project 1619 today. I mean, you're talking about people who went through 300 years of just hell through slavery and oppression, another 100 Jim Crow, and just slavery, Jim Crow, and then segregation. You're talking about people going through all of this. We just got back. Our church just took a trip to Selma, Montgomery, in Alabama, and people are still able to thrive. I mean, it's difficult. That's why it's tough, and it's trauma. There's trauma involved, and that's why we have these kind of conversations to try to get us focused and not distracted by things that people that don't have our best intentions at heart, ways that they try to pull us away because they fear us having power. For us to do that and still accomplish some of the things that we're accomplishing, yeah, we could be better off as a people, but we're doing a lot of amazing things. We are doing absolutely a lot of amazing things with people always. That was the piece that I heard on Project 1619 that kind of blew my mind. We always think about the Native Americans, Indians, whatever you want to call them, and for the most part, they connect with us. But there was about a good percentage in the South that when they had the ability, because these were the native people, and these people came and took over their land and tried to colonize. They had this they had this understanding from the Catholic Church in Europe that if they find it, they discover, it's called doctrine of discovery, and just take people's land, under the name of God. That's trash. People don't never even met God. But what the Native Americans did, even with a piece of them, not a large portion, but in the South, they were able to kind of work out a deal to where if they would be considered not like whites, but not like blacks. And so they would be able to own slaves, but they were looked at to see if they bought into, and I can't remember the wording that it was called, but if they bought into the concept, and so there were in the South, there were Native American slave owners, about 3% slave owners, that obtained wealth. But then what happened is those folk didn't like them in the first place, and so some people started saying, no, they got too many rights. They're no different than the niggas, and then so they and I got to go back and listen to it, but they passed this legislation to where they took all of their land. They had to give up their property. They had to give up their land and leave, and they turned on them. But there were some that were willing to act just like Europeans, because they felt like they would be treated a little better. And that's a dangerous place to be, is to become what you despise. And for us, it's a dangerous place to be, is to become what you despise, because there's some black folk that in order to feel a little connection to people who have traditionally not had our best interests at heart, we will say, okay, I know I'm not them, but at least I'll be treated a little better than I guess I can't say the N word on here. I don't know where I'm gonna say it. I'll be treated a little bit better than regular niggas, and so yeah, I'll sell my people out. I'll do things against their best interest because it builds wealth for me and my family, and that's a bad place to be. We need to go back, and everybody's not gonna do it. You can't get frustrated because everybody's not moving, but as a people, we do need to figure out how to, in whatever little corners we're in, or whatever little sections we're in, how to go back to a village mentality. And that village mentality means you can't allow people to infiltrate the village. You can't allow it. You can't allow people to gentrify the village, because as soon as you allow the infiltration, the gentrification is going to come in, and then you're going to begin to compromise and live at standards that are way below what your ancestors taught you, that are way below. I have a page on Facebook called Say It Loud. Say It Loud. And I've had it for, I don't know, probably 15 years. Well, not 15, probably 10 or 12 years. But if you go check out Say It Loud, and basically all I do on Say It Loud, a lot of my social justice stuff, I used to post that on there. But now a lot of stuff I just new facts that I learned about who we are, where we came from, and I put that on there just so as people are right going through, they can see that stuff and share it and get that information out there. Because if we believe the story that they're writing about us, you know, it's a bad thing when the hunter, when the hunter gets to write the narrative. But we, the lions and lionesses, we need to write our own story, meaning that we need to teach our children, we need to teach our people, we need to get information and learn our own history, because people that don't have our best, there's no way in the world that they want us to know how great we are, how intelligent we are, how the abilities that we have to survive and thrive. And so we got to go learn that stuff ourselves. So you can go and visit that Say It Loud page, and you just type in Say It Loud and maybe Ron Rose. I don't know, because there's probably some other Say It Loud pages, but maybe type in Say It Loud and Ron Rose and check it out. They're just facts on top of facts on top of facts. But we can do this thing, y'all. We can do this thing. The only thing that the hunter has an advantage over with the lion is the weapons, but we have access also. And so we can't just lay down. If our brothers and sisters in Haiti could do it, we could do it. The reason why they hurt them, and then Denmark Vesey in South Carolina, and then Nat Turner, I think in Virginia, the reason why they came so hard after them, after what Haiti did, was because they did not want us to know that we had that kind of power. But all you got to do is look at our history to know that we have power. But we got to get back to the village, y'all. We got to get back to the village. We got to stop being so selfish and into what I want, and look out and see what's in the best interest of the village. Because the more powerful the village is, the more powerful we are. We don't let anybody tell us how to do politics. No, we don't run away. We can't just allow them to run the country. We got to get involved. But we don't let them tell us how to do it. We get together. We block together. We move together. And if you want our support, you do what we do. That's it, y'all. The village has been infiltrated, gentrified, and compromised. But if we work together and are patient and understand that everybody's not going to come along, we can get stronger. And it starts with you. Have a good one. God bless you. Thank you, Irma. You have a great one. Kira. Keep saying Kira because that's my daughter's name. Kira, I appreciate it, darling. Byron, I see you, sir. I see everybody. Gil Hill, Loretta, all y'all. Kenny, y'all have a good one. God bless you. Look forward to seeing you in church on Sunday morning, 10:45, Greater Bethel. Trinita White, what's up, lady? We need to get back to what grandma and great grandma told us. You're right. We can do it, y'all. Don't say we can't. We can do it. Title of Sunday's sermon is Not One. I'm not gonna bring you in on it yet. I want you to be surprised. But we can do this thing. We got power. Hey, God bless you. Let me quit rambling. Have a great